Invoking the blessings of Paramaguru Swami Taponji Maharaj and Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji Maharaj and Pujya Guruji, we would move further. I will start with an invocation, then one Namasmarana for a minute or two, and then by their blessings we would like to see what they want us to listen and understand. अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भवानी शंकरौ वन्दे श्रद्धा विश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धा स्वान्तस्थमीश्वरं सिद्धा स्वान्तस्थम् ईश्वरम्। Hari Om. Namasmarana. Please try to repeat after me. This text, what we are going to take now, is in essence drawn from the teachings of the masters, the divine masters of the entire Advaita Parampara, with reference to Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharyaji's few of his works, but the essence is from entire parampara. So we offer salutations at the feet of all the great masters, without whose permission, grace, blessings and sankalpa we would not be able to even think of their expressions out of their own experiences, and it is sheerly and merely and totally their total grace that we can focus our minds upon their blessings in the form of these beautiful works. So we offer our salutations to all of them. Purnanandam Paramanandam, Purnanandam Paramanandam, Tapovana Guru Dhyananandam, Tapovana Guru Dhyananandam, Purnanandam Paramanandam, Tapovana Guru Dhyananandam, Brahmanandam Sachidanandam, Brahmanandam Sachidanandam, Chinmaya Sadguru Nityanandam, Chinmaya Sadguru Nityanandam, Vasishta Sadguru Brahmanandam, Vasishta Sadguru Brahmanandam, Parasharajaya Paramanandam, Parasharajaya Paramanandam, Vedavyasa Satyanandam, Vedavyasa Satyanandam, Shukagaudapada Sukshmanandam, Shukagaudapada Sukshmanandam, Purnanandam Paramanandam, Tapovana Guru Dhyananandam, Brahmanandam Sachidanandam, Chinmaya Sadguru Nityanandam, Govinda Shankara Jnananandam, Govinda Shankara Jnananandam, Padmapada Bimbanandam, Padmapada Bimbanandam, Hastamalaka Bodhanandam, Hastamalaka Bodhanandam, Totaka Guru Jaya Sevanandam, Totaka Guru Jaya Sevanandam, सुरेश्वराजय तत्त्वानन्दम् सुरेश्वराजय तत्त्वानन्दम् सदाशिवं विष्णुब्रह्मानन्दम् सदाशिवं विष्णुब्रह्मानन्दम् गोविन्दशङ्करज्ञानानन्दम् पद्मपादबिम्बानन्दम् हस्तामलकाबोधानन्दम् तोटकगुरुजयसेवानन्दम् सुरेश्वराजय तत्त्वानन्दम् सदाशिवं विष्णुब्रह्मानन्दम् सदाशिवं विष्णुब्रह्मानन्दम् ब्रह्मानन्दम् 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 Harihi Om. The great rishis have always thought about us, and they always try to bring their experiences of Supreme Divinity into our level of understanding, so that in this busy world and our busy life, we may get an opportunity, rarely, very rarely, to not only try to know about something which is very much possible within our realm of understanding, something which is of the supreme reality, the supreme Godhood, consciousness, we will be able to intellectually understand, in the beginning mentally know, and then intellectually understand, and thereafterwards the intellect gets internalized, and then that understanding may by their grace become an experience of the highest truth in our own bosom, in our own being, as our own inner self, the Antaratma, the Pratyagatma. Because if it is far away, somewhere else, as something else, in spite of our understanding and in spite of our so-called experiences, we may still have the fear of losing it, of not continuously gaining it, of not having it as our own and as one's own. That is why these great masters did not place this truth somewhere else, but they have directed us to discover it, recognize it, become one with it as our own inner self. So, there is no room for any separation, there is no room for any fear or anything else to enter in between the one who is seeking and that which is sought. They went to the extent of saying the seeker himself or herself is the sought. Even the seeking disappears, and then only that which is sought remains as a unified expression of the seeker and the sought. It is their grace and their compassion that they have always brought that supreme experience into our levels of mind and intellect. Wherever we are, we have the mind and the intellect to understand the truths. So to bring it down to our level is only compassion. Otherwise, after one realizes the non-dual truth, one can completely remain in it because there is nothing else other than in it. There is no second thing in order to recognize or see or perceive or communicate or lift or help or assist or uplift. There is nothing. But they, in their compassion, not look at this from their standpoint, but look at this from our standpoint. So when we look at it, we always have so many things around us, which surround us, and which make us go round and round. And again, we get into so many entanglements. So in their compassion, they wanted us to get out of this and hold on to that, because of which everything else is what it is. And they did not simply say that there is some truth, that there is some reality, and only there is great joy, and in this life there is no joy, in this life there is only sadness and suffering. They did not say like that, but only to lift our minds when they are so lost in this worldliness. They might have said some pointers to not only shake us but to shock us, so that we awaken and then come out of it. Otherwise, in their compassion, they said, there is joy in this world, there is pleasure in this world, there is happiness in this world. But this is a dependent pleasure, and this is not an independent joy in its own way. And also there are so many factors that are connected with it, which make it totally unreliable. It is completely unreliable according to them. We rely upon this, and they say you need not rely upon this. But we will see about that in the light of the understanding that they attempted to give it to us, all the great masters and the great rishis. That's why we invoked almost all the important Advaitic masters in our Namasmarana, so that their grace may be there upon us. Only then something opens up. Only then I can talk and you can listen, or this satsang can happen. Title is Thrill Beyond Stillness. When we are in love with anything in this world, when we like something, when we have intense longing for something, then even to remember that, to think about that, even to see an image of that, even to entertain a thought of that, adds pleasure to our living. We experience some pleasure, we experience some joy, we experience some happiness. Certainly there are thrills connected with the thinking about something which we intensely long, very much like, and greatly love. Whether it is a person, of course, if it is a person, our response is spontaneously immediate, where whenever we think or somebody makes us think about those people whom we love, immediately there is a feeling of pleasure inside, There is a subjective pleasure that is experienced inside. Whosoever is very dear to us, in whatever manner they are dear to us, if they are dear to us, the thought of them will give us an opportunity to experience that pleasure. Even thinking gives us this experience. That is the power of our longing, our love, our affection, our like for a person or an object also. If we like some object, then whenever we see a similar object, we are reminded of this particular object. Sometimes people also say, when they like someone and when they see somebody similar to that person, they feel so happy to see also. They even go and tell, you exactly look like so and so. But it will be dangerous to go and tell somebody you look like my wife and all. Unless and until they have that magnanimity to understand the feeling. So, if there is an opportunity to see like that, to experience like that, there is a pleasure, there is joy. Thinking also gives this joy, this pleasure. And even at times we see this as a thrill. We will be thrilled to think about them. When somebody talks great about them, when somebody praises them, when somebody applauds them, when somebody recognizes something which is great and tries to tell to us about their feeling, their experience about it, our thrill would not know any limitations at that time. It goes beyond. It goes into those highest frontiers of inner thrill, higher thrill. Even to think about objects that we like also. Suppose we like ice cream. If children are made to think about that, cookies, they feel so good to think. Because for them that is the most important thing. That is the great source of pleasure. And any place also, if we like any place, we really like it, and we enjoyed being there, or we want to be there, and we are waiting for that opportunity to be there, and then somebody comes and tells about that place, we will have all eyes and ears towards that, and we would be very eager to know about that. Every statement that the person says, it will be adding something to us. We will be very inquisitive to know. Each statement, each piece of information will make us feel more good, more nice, more joy. And sometimes we would love to know more and more and more. If somebody has met the person whom we love, or somebody has visited the place that we like, that we adore, and then they come and tell something about their experiences, oh, we would love to listen to it. Any description about that? So all these are connected with the thinking of a place or a person or an object or a situation. It gives us pleasure, it gives us that joy. Nobody can deny this. Even though we hear time and again that everything is illusion, but this pleasure is there in our experience. No one can deny this. And further than this, higher than this, greater than this, is that pleasure or that joy which we get when we not only think about this, but we get an opportunity to own that particular object, to possess that object, to get into a contract with that person or that situation, to establish a relationship and feel that it is mine, it is mine, it is my own. When I think about it, it is at a distance. Mentally, it is at a distance. It is away from me. But when I come to know that I can make it my own, and I am entering into a contract to make it my own, to take it as my own, to possess it, to own it, to have the authority over it, this is more pleasure. Like somebody is in love with someone, and then they told the parents, and then they proposed also, they accepted, and then there is an engagement. Oh, mine! It is my own now. Nobody can snatch it from me. And nobody is interested also. So, but nobody can snatch it from me. That feeling will be there. When I can make it my own, oh, it is mine now. That way. Suppose the children go to any exhibition or any mall or anywhere where their choicest toys are there. And they can't stand now, they want to have it. They want to grab it, they want to have it, they want to play with it, they want to enjoy with it. So they will be looking at it. And afterwards, suppose dad or mom says, okay, now you can have it. Woo, it is my own now. There is great joy. There is great thrill. More higher than thinking about it. To be in a position to own it. To be in a position to have it. That is greater thrill. Still higher than that is the thrill when we actually experience it. We go to the ice cream parlor and then get that scoop and then put it on the tongue and it's slowly slipping and we are tasting it and then going deeply inside and again yummy. You think of the people. And like this there are so many experiences in the world which we experience, which we have. To think of it gives a pleasure, is thrilling. To feel that it is my own now, I am the owner of it, that gives a more thrill. And to actually experience it. The grandmother wanted to see the grandchild. She was denied that experience to see. She only got the information that there is a grandchild, the grandchild is growing and then doing this and doing that and all that. Only thinking. And afterwards, the grandmother got an opportunity to listen that a flight ticket is brought, then they can go and then see. And the moment she sees them in the airport, the whole world is forgotten. And takes the grandchild near and starts hugging, kissing, blessing, squeezing, whatnot. There is total tanmayatva in that experience. Great thrill. Who can deny all these things? We all undergo these thrills in life. There are so many of these things. And sometimes we wonder why people call it as an illusion. When it is so nice. When it is so beautiful. When it is factual, actual, and we can experience it. Why? We are not bothered about that. We are having a nice time now to think about these things. Hope you are all reminded of all those beautiful things you love and then you like and then moments you enjoyed and experienced. All of you have treasures of those experiences. So many of them. Even to remember such things also is thrilling. That is the joy that Bhagavan provides to us. To have a good life and enjoy. But from where we get this misery, why we get this confusion or suffering, or whatever it is, which distracts us from these experiences, and again come to understand that there is something else other than these experiences also in life. That something else, why it is there? Why only these experiences are not there all through our living? Why not our life be moment to moment an experience of only these things? Why something else is there? Why at all Bhagavan should create like that? It is not our fault. It is He who made the world like that. See, when we see 2-3 children in one home, if parents give attention to one child, the other child will be struggling there to get the attention. If they don't give the attention equally, then what happens is they try their own ways to get the attention. The easy ways we know. As elders, we don't do it directly, but we do it internally. But as kids, they do it directly, expressively. They start crying. Or they start doing certain actions. Why? To get the attention. We may not do those things, but we do it decently. As elders, we have our own ways, management techniques. How to get the attention of the other. Because we had been fed with the attention right from our birth. That is how it is. That is also a food. Food is not only what we take in through the mouth. but also through the sense organs, but also through these experiences. So, when we see this, the life is very nice, very smooth, very good, beautiful, memorable, very pleasurable. But other than this experience, something else is there which makes us feel sometimes incomplete, sometimes that something is slipping away, something is not yet total, something is not really complete, something is going away. At least that experience will be there to everyone. All these thrills that are there, which are greater than the earlier one, each one is greater than the earlier one. Our great master said these are of a different stages of joy, Priya, Moda and Pramoda, to think, to make it one's own, and then to actually experience it. But all these beautiful experiences that are there, they are there. But one thing that is associated with them is, whatever might be the experience, however thrilling it might be, however deeply touching it might be, penetrating into our heart it might be, but one thing happens, that is, it slowly ends. It comes to an end. Every time we experience these things, it ends and leaves us with a longing for more of such experiences, repetitions of those experiences. All this slip out of our hands. We come to understand one truth about these things, that is, these experiences, no doubt they are very thrilling, but they slowly fade away. They slowly slip out of our hands. We know that they are evanescent, temporary, momentary, fleeting, passing, vanishing, disappearing. Slowly they go out of our hands. And then we start thinking, why? Why don't they stay with us? And why don't these experiences remain like this? Why can't I live like this for whole life? Why time passes? Why it does not stay? Because sometimes people have these experiences when they are with their beloved or when they are with their things of their like and choice. Hours pass, even a day passes, but they still feel how fast it passed, how soon it passed. Why it has to move? Sometimes people talk to each other, why can't the time stay like this? Why can't this experience remain like this? Why can't it can be extended to infinity? Don't we feel this? We feel sometimes. Why at all? Something else should come and then take it away. Why can't it remain like that? Why can't I be like that? Honestly, we have such feelings. But the truth is, we cannot be like that in an experience. That is the limitation. That is the way in which the world has been created. There is nothing that can stay on here. At the limited level, not even the experiencer or the experienced or even the experiencing, none of these things can remain forever. They are bound. They are bound by limitations. All these objects of pleasures, all these objects of our joys and thrills are bound by limitations. Limitations of space, limitations of time, limitations of objectivity. They are bound by the limitations of space, time, and objectivity. Our great masters tried their best to bring these concepts to the level of our understanding. How to understand that an object is bound by space. What is this limitation of space? It is their magnanimity and beauty of their thinking that they can bring such beyond mind experiences into the realm of mind. That which is experienced when the mind is silent, when the mind is not moving, when the thought is not creating any ripples, what is experienced there is brought into the level of our thinking and understanding. That is the only way which we understand as of now, in whatever level of evolution we are, whatever stage of evolution we are. So they said very beautifully, they tried to define these limitations in a way in which we can understand. It seems somebody said to his friend, "Do you know, the scientists have recently discovered that object, that dish, that delicacy, which decreases human happiness by 90%. Decreases? I thought increases. No, decreases human happiness by 90%. They have confirmed it, scientists. Then the friend asked, "What is that?" He said, "Wedding cake." Because so much of expectation, so much of thought, so much of thing. And suddenly you see, this person was thought to be a celestial being. Now we think he is not even a human being. From where to where the fall? At expectation level, celestial being. At experiential level, doubt whether there is human being or not. And then it seems that man said, they have also discovered another nice delicacy which enhances human happiness by 1%. What is that? Anniversary cake. So to regain the lost 90%, you have to celebrate these things for 90 years. Then there will be Purna Ananda. Because one would have regained what is lost. I think at that time there will be no misunderstandings, there will be no doubts, there will be no fights, there will be no confusion, because mind is totally silent there with so much of experience. And what is there to grumble about, shout about, fight about, complain about? There is nothing also, no energy also to fight. And no loss also is experienced. This is not there, that is not there, you didn't give me this, you didn't give me that. And by the time one would have understood the other person is not the source of happiness. So no complaint only. That I thought you will make me happy, I thought by taking your hand, I will have hand in hand, and then always there will be a happiness band, and then like that. And for that I wore a band also. So, but by the time each person understands the other, they accept the other totally, no reservations, no resistance. There is hardly any expectation also. Total acceptance. Complete acceptance. And in that acceptance, there is no complaint only. So that is at that age, each individual accepts the other person completely. And if there is any limitation, they don't bother about it only. They just ignore it. Limitation hai. But otherwise, that alone was prominent. Limitation, if it is discovered, that means they had it. That alone was the object of meditation. Why the person has this quality? But later on, they don't even think about it. In fact, one mission secretary of one mission center told me, Swamiji, you have to understand this. I said, what? See, marriage means adjustment. Marriage means one learns only adjustment. Wife adjusts, husband adjusts. Because two different minds with peculiar thinking patterns, they come together and want to be together in spite of their peculiar thinking. So it is adjustment only. Either one has to adjust or both have to adjust. If they don't adjust, then there is nothing to adjust. There is nothing just and nothing to adjust. And then he said, marriage is adjustment, but childbirth means acceptance. There is no adjustment there. Because children will not adjust. They will do what they want to do. And you have only one thing, accept. That is why he said, this is the best way to become spiritual. You learn two qualities. Total adjustment, then only you will be at peace. Otherwise you will be torn into pieces. And then afterward, total acceptance. Finished. Then you are spiritual. I said, this is wonderful. Beautiful way of looking at it. So, when the great rishis tried to mention about the limitation of space, they said, Atyanta abhava pratyogi is called as desha paricheda, meaning counter correlate of absolute existence. Now, till now we were fine. And now, with this type of thoughts, you started confusing us. It was a smooth going till now. Now, what? Counter correlate of absolute non-existence. One word also I don't understand. What? Counter correlate absolute non-existence. What is this? This object, don't think I am trying to sell it. Is present in this place. This very object is present only in this place. And this object is not present anywhere else in this creation. Similar object can be, but this object is not present anywhere else in this whole creation. Counter correlate of absolute non-existence. This object is absolutely non-existent everywhere else. It is not existent anywhere else. In this itself, there is counter correlate of absolute non-existence. If the object is there, means in itself, in the existence of this object itself, there is absolute non-existence. Nowhere else it is there, only here it can be there. So that counter correlate of absolute non-existence is called as space division. That means, okay, in our words we can say, that which makes it to exist only here and not anywhere else. Everywhere else it is non-existent, only here it is existent. So this object has a limitation with it. The limitation is, it is only here. It is not there. It is not there. It is not somewhere. It is only here and not anywhere else in this creation. That is counter correlate of absolute non-existence. This is called as division of space, limitation of space. Every object in this world, including you and I, is bound by this division, limitation. We can exist only here, where we are, and nowhere else we can be. Our effects can be felt wherever. Like the epicenter of an earthquake is in one place, the tremors can be felt, depending upon the intensity of the Richter scale. Like that, our contribution can go far and far. That is possible. We can be here, but the tremors can be felt anywhere. Because of this information technology, it's few seconds we can send this effect wherever possible. The other corner of the globe also. They also can be shaken. So, this object, everything in this world is like this. Every object in this world is like this. It is in one particular place in a space. It is inherent in that object, that division. Its absolute non-existence is in itself only. Counter-correlate of absolute non-existence. Every object is the same. The next one. Division of time or limitation of time. Counter-correlate of prior non-existence and posterior non-existence. This came into existence only in certain period of time. Before it was created, it was not existent. Certainly after some time, I think with the permission of the organizers, I will tell it will not be existent. But don't think I am keeping it in my pocket and taking it away. But it will be not existent. So, prior non-existence is there for this object and posterior non-existence is there. That because of which the object can only be now. Before also it was not there, afterwards also it will not be there. That is limitation of time. That is existent in the object only. Counter-correlate of prior non-existence and posterior non-existence. Prag abhava, pradvamsa abhava. Both are there in this object only. We are also like that. That is why sometimes you see all the elders' photographs, born, died. The decent thing that they have done after they are born is, they left. Whatever it is, everybody, it is the same. Born, died, born, died, born, died. Meaning, prior non-existence, posterior non-existence. If somebody is troubling, we need not bother. We need not worry. Because if we know this philosophy, there is posterior non-existence. So that means it will end. If there is a thought that this will end, whenever we are in suffering, we feel it will never end. That is why we suffer. We think it will never end. But whenever we enjoy, we will feel it will end. It will slip away, it will end, it will end. We will always feel it will end, it will end. I don't want it to end, it will end. But whenever we suffer, we don't see that. We see it will continue, it will not end. I don't know when it will end. I think it will never end. I will only end. And it goes on like that. But one good thing is, either suffering will end, or the cause of suffering will end, or the sufferer will end. There is definitely a relief, either way. So, that is time division, counter-correlate of prior non-existence and posterior non-existence. And then, the limitation object-wise limitation. I don't know why this man is taking all saucers now. Okay. So, this object is not in this object. And this object is not in this object. And this object is not in any other object. And this object also is not in any other object. But when they are when these two are placed together, this is not in that, that is not in this. In other words, we can also say, this limits the pervasiveness of that, this limits the pervasiveness of that. That also we can say. Nice sound. I think morning meditation we can try this. Guided meditation. We didn't say whether it is through words or sounds. I can come here and sit and then go on making sound. And after half an hour say meditation is over. What is this? Guided meditation. With what I will guide, I didn't tell. So whatever it is. But please come, don't stop coming. So, the pervasiveness is limited. Not only that, each object limits the other. The counter correlate of mutual non-existence, anyonya abhava. This is not in that, that is not in this. This counter correlate of mutual non-existence. Because this can't be there, that can't be here, so this is here, that is there. This is a limitation. That is called as a division of matter. So what we see here is, very deeply when we analyze, suppose we take a cloth and then traditional example pot. The cloth is not in the pot is not in the cloth. There is non-existence of pot in the cloth, there is non-existence of cloth in the pot. So that means anyonya abhava, mutual non-existence. So once this is understood, thus all the objects in the world, including you and I, are bound by the limitations of space, time and objectivity. If they are bound by the limitations of space, time and objectivity, they can give us a particular type of experience only in one place, only in one time, one period of time. Only that can give. In another place it may not give. That is why we experience sometimes in relationships when people go out on tour, when the tour starts, they are very peaceful. Suddenly, sometime in between, something happens, they start fighting with each other, shouting at each other. What happened? Same person at a different place gives different experience, different experiences. Same object at a different period of time will give different experience. Same person also, at another time they will give different experience. When this child is very small and sweet and then chubby and then so beautiful and divinely, godly, what not. And when that small child with the tiny little feet kicks on the head or face or heart or chest, so nice it is, so enjoyable. When they grow, when they kick, oh God. Same child, only size is big. Even when they say of kicking, say something which we don't like, we are disappointed. But as long as they are in that level of a child, we enjoy anything and everything. They throw and break anything also, we encourage the children. We praise because, we have to really make them feel good at it. Oh, nice, how creative my child is. One mirror, the child can make it into 10 mirrors. Saving. No need to buy any mirrors for next few years. Because he thought, no, why carry big mirrors or carry small pocket mirrors, pieces. We are very creative. But when the same child grows into elder and out of fit of anger, takes it and throws it and breaks it, what you are doing? What do you think of it? We shout like that. Because different period of time, different place, different situation, different experience. So, when we get an experience from an object, that very object is bound by these three limitations. We are bound by three limitations. That very experience is bound by three limitations. So, to expect that this experience or the one who is giving experience or one who is having experience, to continuously have it, is it not something against the very laws which are binding them? It is against. We cannot have any experience that is not bound by time, that is not bound by space, that is not bound by objectivity. Every experience is bound by this. So it has to end, so it has to leave us. So in the end, it has to leave us and go. It cannot be with us. It has to vanish, it has to disappear, it has to go away. Whatever it is in this world, that has to end, that will end. Even while it is giving, it is bound by these limitations. So, when these things are bound by these limitations, to think that they will make us complete, remove the incompleteness, is not true, not a correct understanding. Whatever experience it is, it will make us land finally in incompleteness. We still miss something. We still feel there is a gap. It is not total, it is not complete. It is not always. Something makes us feel that we are still incomplete. Add the experiences, repeat the experiences, but still we feel. Because repetition of experiences is not going to give us completeness. We have to experience, in fact, go beyond this experience or experience and experiencing to really experience it. Is there anything which is not bound by these limitations? That is what Rishi started thinking. They started thinking like this: why a human being is dissatisfied? Why a human being feels sad, sorrowful, miserable? Why there is this sorrow? They understood only because of these limitations. When a thing ends, there is sorrow. When a thing is slipping away, there is sorrow. When a thing changes against the expectations, there is sorrow. Something goes against, there is sorrow. Why this? How to end it? It is not by pleading the people. It is not by trying to change the situations, nor the objects, nor replacing the objects and people. But they started thinking, how can this be transcended? How can this be put to end? This sense of incompleteness, this sense of gap, lack of fulfillment, how it can be overcome? Is there anything in this world? Is there anything in this creation? Is there anything at all that is not bound by these things? Then they discovered, yes, there is one thing, and only one thing. That is the consciousness. That is God. That is truth. That is which is everywhere. That is which is everything. That because of which everything is what it is. That because of which the sun is sun, the moon is moon, the wind is wind, the earth is earth, the air is air, the fire is fire. That which brought all these things into existence, that which is responsible for you and me to survive, to appear, to manifest, that which causes the galaxies to manifest, solar systems to manifest. Everything else in this world has come out of it. Without that, there is nothing in the world that can exist, even for a split second, even for a trillionth of a second. Nothing can exist. That is beyond these limitations. And that is not different. If that is beyond these limitations, then what will I get? But then the Rishis said, that is not different from you, your nature. What? Akasha is everywhere. But what is that which brought this also into existence? That is Atma. That is the real self, which is not different from your inner self, the true nature. And that is beyond these limitations. That is why when they said about the pointers, they said it very beautifully. God is all pervading, everywhere. God is everywhere. When God is everywhere, there is no counter correlate of absolute non-existence. He is everywhere. Space is everywhere, that we can understand mentally, intellectually. That which is subtler than the space, that which brought the space also into existence, at least intellectually we can understand it is everywhere. Because space is everywhere. Give a benefit of doubt. It can be. It is everywhere. Narayana, Vishnu, Vyapanashilatvatiti Vishnuhu is everywhere. When a thing it is everywhere, there is no division of space. There is no space where it is not there. Space only is there because of that. That is everywhere. No division of space. That is eternal. Eternal. At all times it existed. Even before the creation it existed. During the creation it exists. And after the dissolution also, that alone exists. There is no birth date. There is no death date. It is eternal, where the time also appears in that consciousness. For time also to appear, some events have to take place. For events to take place, something has to be there to take place, to make them take place. Only when something takes place, afterwards something else takes place, then comes the first unit of second, measurement of time. How do we measure? Something has to take place. An interval between two happenings alone is the first unit of time. So what is that something which can manifest so many things, and even the time appears in it, which is beyond time, which it doesn't appear in time, but time also appears in it. There is no division of time, limitation of time. Then they said that Bhagavan, that consciousness, that truth is antaryami of everything, is the inner self of everything, is the consciousness of everything, sentient, insentient, everything has it. It is in the innermost core, it is there, in everything. So there is no object where it is not there, as the inner self, as the inner presence. There is no being where it is not there as the inner essence. It is in everything. So there is no limitations. Mutual non-existence is not applicable to this. It is in everything. Everything is a door to God. Everything has in the innermost core essence the God, the consciousness, the truth, the reality. So there is no division of objectivity. In every object it exists. In fact, object exists because of it only. But we have to really understand this. I have heard about one priest who went to a barber shop for his haircut and trimming and so on and so forth. So the barber treated him with great respect, and it was visible in his actions. And after all that job that is done, then the priest tried to take out some money and give it to this barber. The barber said, "No, priest, no. Let me treat this as my service to God, because you are a man of God, always talking about God, communicating about God. So it is my service to God. Please, by paying it, don't take away my joy, my satisfaction of me also being, I also
being capable of at least doing something. The satisfaction will be there in me, please. He was so touched, the priest. He left. The next day when the barber came to open the shutters of his shop, he saw 12 nice thanksgiving cards, thank you cards, all signed by the priest, and also 12 nice pieces of bread that were already offered in prayer. He mentioned that also, 12 pieces of bread and 12 thank you cards. Thank you very much. I am so touched by your expression, your value, your feeling. So barber also felt very nice. That day, one police officer came to the barber shop. And then he also had the job done. Then when he was about to give money, then the barber said, "No, police officer, no. Let me treat this as a service to society. It's a community. You are serving this community. You are here serving. Please let me treat this as a service." He was also touched. He left. And on the next day, the other day when barber came to open the shop, the shutters of his shop, there were 12 beautiful flowers with again nice notes on it. I am deeply touched by your service and your feeling. It makes me feel very special, and kindly accept these beautiful Godiva chocolates. 12 chocolates. He placed. Then next day, that day, a politician came. And then he also got his job done. Then when he was about to give money, the barber said, "No, sir, no. You are serving the nation. I will treat this as my service to nation. How can I serve the nation? But only through persons like you. I can't serve. I don't have that much of capacity to serve like you. But only if I serve you, I feel that I am serving the nation. Please give me this opportunity." And then he did not take any money. The politician left. Next day when he came to open the shutters, he saw 12 politicians. No thanks cards, no pieces of bread, no roses, nothing, no Godiva chocolates. They came to know that somebody is doing it for free. So 12 people came to get it done. In this world, whatever we gain as an experience, it is not free. There is a fee for it. Whether we like it or not, we have to pay for it. And that payment is not so easy. We struggle a lot to become capable of paying for it, making that payment. But after that payment also there is one thing. There is entertainment. But afterwards, this limitation appears. This limitation is always there. That it will end, it will fade, it will slip, it will disappear, it will vanish, it will become non-existent. And we are left again to ourselves. After each such experience leaves us, we immediately try to grab something else. Why? Because we do not know how to stay with ourselves. Once it ends, it tells the truth that I did go away from you. Then what should I do now? How to be with myself? That is a big thing. Because if we understand this, then we can go into these objects, we can have the experiences of the objects, we can maintain a good relationship with these objects. But we know the truth, we know their nature. That would be different. Knowing their nature and maintaining a relationship, knowing the truth of these experiences and then being in connection with it, there's a different way of connecting, relating. Thereafterwards, if they end, we are not sad. If they slip away, we are not feeling bad. We don't blame, we don't criticize. We don't end up lamenting, or we don't make ourselves look like a victim of these circumstances or these experiences. We don't convert ourselves into the losers. Because we have the understanding, we know that this is the truth of it. If we don't know this, then we jump into relationship with these things, not knowing what is in store for us. There was one newspaper reporter, agent, very specialist photographer, working for a nice newspaper agency. One day he received a message that there is a huge forest fire. Now we have to immediately send the message across through our web page and also through actual newspaper, printing it soon by evening or tomorrow edition. All that you have to do is rush to the nearby airfield, the small airfield there. One aircraft will be waiting for you. Get into this, go fly near to that forest fire, and then make some passes from the right side, left side, top side, bottom side, and then make some nice passes. Then take some closest photographs and get it soon so that we can send the message and give the people the latest information. And that way we can enhance the image of our paper. Circulation of our paper. Come on, do it, go fast. So, the moment he got the message, he set out on that journey as per the directions. He was just driving his vehicle. Then he discovered some fields, and then he went near, there was some small airfield, and then he rushed there, and then got out of his vehicle, ran to that aircraft that was waiting, and dashed inside, closed the door, looked at the pilot and said, "Come on, take off! Take off!" It took off. And then after it went for a while flying, then he said, "Come on, see that fire, huge forest fire, go near it, go near it." It went near it. Then afterward, make the passes like this swing and like this swing. From top to the left corner, from the left corner to the top corner. Come on, make these passes. The pilot looked at him. What? Make the passes. What make the passes? He looked at that photographer and said, "That you didn't teach me." I didn't teach you? What are you thinking? Then the pilot asked, "Are you not the flight instructor?" He said, "Me? Flight instructor? I am a photographer." He said, "Are you not the pilot? Waiting for me?" He said, "I am the student learning the flight, how to fly the plane. All these days I had theory classes. Today is my first practical flight, first practical lesson. I was waiting for my instructor. He asked me to come, take the plane out and then wait there. I was waiting. Are you not the instructor?" Then that is the time when photographer understood he cannot make any more passes. But there is only one thing, that he will pass away. Then the photographer thought, better I take my photograph now. And at least leave it so that keep it in the black box there. When the plane crashes, at least that will remain. Last photo will remain. Jumping into relationship with objects of the world without knowing their nature, without knowing their essence, what they are made up of what, will always be like this. We get into relationship, we get into entanglement, we get into bondage, we get into connection, we take a flight, we fly high, and after that, we don't know how to come down. There will be only crash. That is why our great masters said, please, go into the relationship, have fun, gain experiences of this world, enjoy the life, but not without knowing the nature of the objects. Know the nature of the objects. Then you will have a different understanding. Then each time you see something slipping out of our hands, you will know where to turn to. It is not running after chasing those vanishing mirages, not those disappearing things, but there is something which is behind them. That is the thing which I have to look at, which I have to understand. Have the experience, but when it ends, don't feel sad, don't feel bad, don't blame, but understand that it ends. And then your pursuit, your chase for them also should end. That is to tell us, please stop your dependency on me. That is what each experience tells us. You had been thinking that I will be with you forever. I will be with you always. I will be making you peaceful and happy always. Please don't be in this illusion. I am honest with you. I can't cheat you. I want to tell you one thing, that I will leave you and you will be left alone. Please, that is why learn the truth. Every time I disappear, please know that there is something behind this disappearance which makes these appearances. You are not bound by these things. Don't depend on me. Don't think I am real. Don't think I am eternal. Don't think I am all-pervading. Don't think I am in everything. I am not. Every experience tells us this. Turn to your inner self. Turn, look inside. You are looking outside too much. And this will be the result. Please look inside. At this moment, instead of looking outside and feeling that it has gone, see inside and feel that that is never gone. That which is ever there. That which is always present. That you have to look into. That's what they say. Sri Adi Shankaracharya ji, in Kevaloham, one of his texts, sloka number 3, he says, sloka number 3 of Kevaloham by Adi Shankara, Brahma bhinnatva vijnanam Brahma bhinnatva vijnanam bhava mokshasya karanam yena dvitiyam anandam brahma sampadhyate budhaihi. Just listen. Brahma bhinnatva vijnanam bhava mokshasya karanam bhava mokshasya karanam yena dvitiyam anandam brahma sampadhyate budhaihi brahma sampadhyate budhaihi brahma bhinnatva vijnanam bhava mokshasya karanam. Adi Shankaracharya ji says, all the suffering, all the sadness, all the sorrow, all the bondage, all the limitation, all the confinement, all this will end. All this will end. You will be liberated from all this. You will be released from all this. You will be freed from all this. You will taste the real freedom. You will never be bound by these things anymore. Never be confined by these things anymore. Never feel sad that these things are ending, because you will be connected to something different. Bhava mokshasya karanam. This bhava, this samsara, this which ends every minute, changes every minute, every moment, that will not affect you. That will not influence you. That will not trouble you. That will not distract you. That will not disturb you. That will not bother you. Bhava mokshasya karanam. What is that? Brahma abhinnatva vijnanam bhava mokshasya karanam. The knowledge of oneness. Brahma abhinnatva vijnanam. The knowledge of oneness. Oneness of what? Your inner self. Your inner self, that which is behind your thinking mind, behind your rationalizing intellect, that which is enlivening them, that which is supporting them, that which is the substratum of them, that which is inside your own inner self, your own true nature. The inner self is not different from Supreme Self. The Supreme Self is not different from inner self. Brahma Abhinnatva Vijnanam, the knowledge, the understanding that the Brahman, the Supreme Consciousness, which is all-pervading, which is eternal, which is in everything, that Brahman is your inner self. It is not different from that. This much of knowledge, this much of understanding will release you from all these bondages, all these limitations, all the sadness and sorrows and miseries. Bhava mokshasya karanam yena dvitiyamanandam brahma sampadyate budhaihi. By this knowledge alone, brahma sampadyate budhaihi. By this knowledge alone, the intelligent people, the learned people, the wise people attain Brahman, Brahma sampadyate budhaihi. Budhaihi, Brahma sampadyate. The wise people attain Brahman. How it is? Yena advitiyam anandam. If there is something other than that, that will limit this, and then this will end. All of our experiences end because there are two. That will end. If it is advitiyam anandam, it will never end. Yena advitiyam anandam. How is this Brahma? This is of the nature of bliss, one without a second, a non-dual bliss. Once you taste this, then you will be like an ocean which will never want to limit itself like a wave. After the wave knows that it is an ocean and it is not different from an ocean, where is the necessity for the ocean to again get confined like a wave, limit itself like a wave? It rises and falls and loses itself. It is an ocean. Like that, the one who experiences the ocean of bliss never want to experience or hanker for the droplets in the world. An ocean is there. It knows it is an ocean of bliss. Then will the ocean hanker for droplets? Is there any need for droplets? How many droplets will make an ocean? What is the use of chasing the droplets? That will be the experience. And then, again, in another text, Adi Shankaracharya says, Swatma Prakashika, that is the text, Sloka 11 of Swatma Prakashika. Pishtam Vyapya Gudam Yadvat Madhuryam Nahi Vanchati Purnanando Jagadvyapya Tadanandam Na Vanchati Pishtam Vyapya Gudam Yadvat Madhuryam Nahi Vanchati Purnanando Jagadvyapya Tadanandam Na Vanchati Tadanandam Na Vanchati. Just as the jaggery, in Hindi we call it as ghud, the jaggery that splits the piece of bread. Suppose the piece of bread is made with the jaggery in center or jaggery as one of its prime contents. It is everywhere in the bread. So that roti, so just as the jaggery that spreads or that pervades the entire of the roti, and that is of the nature of sweetness. That whole roti is of the nature of sweetness. It is full of nature of sweetness. Does it desire sweetness again? Which is of the nature of sweetness. Is there any need for it to desire for sweetness? It is not necessary. It is full of sweetness. Similarly, the Paramatman, who is the nature of bliss, who pervades the entire world like the jaggery in the roti. Like that jaggery pervades the roti, and like that the Paramatman pervades the whole world, the whole creation. And it is sweet, full of sweetness. The bread is sweet, like Paramatman also full of sweet, full of bliss. It will not desire any more bliss because it is of the nature of bliss. A common example that is taken here, we prepare roti with full sweet, with jaggery in it. That will not desire any more sweetness because it is full of sweetness. Any bit, any piece you take out of it, it is sweet. Why will it decide? Make a decision for acquiring more sweetness. Like that, the Paramatman that pervades everything, including our inner core, as our inner self, is sweet. The one who has understood this, that it is sweet, it is nature of bliss, where is the need to run for something else? Meaning what? Even when we run for it, we will know at least one thing. Inside it is there, full of sweetness. It is sweetness. It is nature of bliss. And that is the greatest thrill that we can experience. No other thrill is equal to this thrill, which is our own true nature and which is our own. No need to ask from anyone. No need to wait for anyone's permission. No need for anybody's mercy. It is our own. That's where these great masters say, go into the world, have everything, but do not neglect this knowledge of your own Swarupa. That's what we will be trying in these coming few days. Taking few beautiful slokas like the thing what we have done now from Adi Shankara's works, but always referring to the essence of the teaching of all the great masters of the Parampara. Every statement that is said, not a single word is mine. Everything is already said by the great masters in the Parampara. I will chant the Shanti Mantra. Afterwards, as per Amma's direction, we will follow. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतंगमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।